Well, good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank all of you for being here, and I trust that you and your families are in the midst of enjoying a wonderful holiday season. I know that we've tried to make the holidays this year for our city as welcoming and as fun and joyous as possible, knowing full well that in the back of our minds, we knew we were headed for a moment like this, in which we'd have to have a press conference to be as serious as we possibly can, given the reality of last year. That memory has lingered with us all year long, and our concerns about this coming new year could not be any greater. And in a few moments, you're going to hear from our lead team here of our first responders and Director Lambert from the state office about what we're going to try to do this year to minimize, certainly eliminate, or hope that we never have anything that happens again like last year. You know, just to reiterate it, 6 people died. 36 people were severely injured. 17 were in intensive care. 36 went to the hospital. Those people have been scarred forever. Those families have been changed forever. You know, it's one thing to have, from my standpoint, a memory of something like that. As tragic as it was, as horrific as it was, those people are still living with it and will continue to do so. That's something we never thought would happen, and we certainly never want to have happen again, which is why we're here today and assembled. And so from a leadership standpoint, I've really wrestled about what's the message? How do we convince people that this is no longer a cultural practice? I know the cultural practices. There are illegal fireworks that you can set off and do, but there's nothing cultural or legal about aerial fireworks. And the potential for widespread damage and death and severe injury is very real, as we all witnessed. So we're here today to somewhat beg, somewhat plead, to try to influence people to the best of our ability, and at the same time talk about the laws that we've changed and what we plan on doing about that, because we cannot tolerate that ever again. There will be no excuse. There's no understanding. There should be no accident like we all experienced last year, and especially those people who suffered and died from it. So we're going to do our very best, and with that I want to bring up Chief Vanek. But I don't know if there's been a time since I've been in office in 5 years where we've conducted a more serious press conference to try to urge the public to work with us, to understand, and to not use illegal fireworks on New Year's Eve. So with that, I want to bring up Chief Vanek.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Aloha, good afternoon, everyone. The Honolulu Police Department is fully committed to using every tool provided under this new law to strengthen enforcement this New Year's Eve. This is because we want to do everything in our power to prevent a tragedy like the one that happened in Aliamanu last year from ever happening again. But no matter how many officers we have out in the public enforcing, what we really need is your partnership, the community's partnership. We cannot achieve safety without the support and involvement of the community, and here's 2 ways that we can help achieve that. So the first is, if you have illegal fireworks, it's not too late to turn it in. Do the right thing, don't set it off. Make the right choice, make the safe choice. If you set it off, you could actually hurt yourself, you could kill yourself, you could kill others, and that would be a tragedy. Don't attempt to dispose them yourself. Don't try to douse them in water, keep them in the original packaging. Leave it as it is, call 911. I know you think you may be bothering us, but you're not. An officer will come out, will assess the situation. If we need, we'll call additional units, specialized units if needed, and we'll dispose of them for you. The second thing to do is report illegal fireworks. Now, I want to give you some numbers. So far this year, there were 232 violations from Thanksgiving to the end of this past weekend. That's compared to over 1,200 violations last year. So what that means is, earlier this year, there was a call to action for people to not use illegal fireworks. For those of you who have heard that call for action, thank you. 232 compared to over 1,200 last year, people are listening. So for those of you who are doing your part, thank you very much. But we still have 232 violations, so there are still those who are not heeding the warning. So for those of you, please, again, stop doing it. It's illegal. So what can you do if you do hear or see illegal fireworks? Well, call 911. What you need to do is community information is essential to our success, again. If you see or hear illegal fireworks, call 911, meet with an officer. Providing a written statement and any photos or videos helps. Although you can remain anonymous, a witness who is willing to cooperate is the most effective. I know a lot of times it's very hard to, snitch on your neighbor, but when you meet with an officer, we can take the information we need, we can get a video, we can say, hey, that's the individual who did it. We can issue a citation. You can see here, if you commit an illegal act, which it is, and aerial fireworks are illegal. Now, under the new laws, we can issue a citation, like if you run a red light or if you're speeding. Before, you needed to go to court. Now we can issue a $300 citation. If you use illegal fireworks and you cause any type of injury to someone, if it's serious or substantial bodily injury, or if it causes their death, you will go to jail for a very long time. So again, do not use illegal fireworks. They are illegal. They can hurt or kill someone. We will be out there in force. We will be enforcing. So do your part. We're asking for your assistance. Next, I'd like to turn it over to Director Lambert from the state.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for covering this. It's very important. Throughout this season, we've tried our best to warn and educate. And as we near New Year's Eve, now it's just going to be pure enforcement, right? So the biggest thing that we want people to know and understand is that we get it. We haven't forgot about DUI. We haven't forgot about gun violence. The issue here, guys, is that when it comes to DUIs and gun violence, nobody's fighting us on that. Nobody's saying you should be allowed to drive drunk. Nobody's saying that you should be allowed to have an illegal gun and harm someone. The issue that we're having is there's still this belief that fireworks is somewhat pseudo-legal, and it ain't, right? The stakes are higher. We had a family that was just obliterated. And to me, this hits home because one of the victims, 3 years old, same age as my daughter. I just celebrated my daughter's 4th birthday, and I got to enjoy her blow out a candle. That family had that taken from them because they made the poor decision to celebrate with fireworks. Don't be that family, right? If you guys want to exchange your family's safety for fireworks, then I don't know what to tell you, because it's going to be devastating and it's something that you're going to live with. So when you guys decide to light off stuff New Year's Eve, just know that you guys may be choosing to light off an aerial and trading in a candle that year for that family member that dies. Like I said, there's no nice way to say this, guys. It's not funny. It's not cultural. It's not, oh, minor. This guy's coming up here talking all big. We do not want your families to be devastated. Worse yet, devastating someone else's family who was trying to follow the law. That's what makes me mad, is that you don't see none of this at my house, but yet my family has to worry about an errant firework. My family has to worry about something falling on the roof and starting a fire, right? Where is the justice and where is the community in that? So I'm grateful to the community that have changed their ways, because there has been less fireworks that I've heard. I've heard this last weekend, I heard about 3. And I can tell you right now, what that sounds to me is someone that is selfish, someone that only cares about themselves, and someone that doesn't care about the community. So you guys may hear pop. What I hear is someone who doesn't care. And for me in law enforcement, if you don't care, then don't cry. Because we're going to try and give out as many tickets as we can New Year's Eve. We've already interdicted over 40 tons of fireworks. We're hoping to indict before the new year to show, what we're doing. But I told my investigators, accuracy over speed. So we'll be seeing those indictments in the new year. So please, guys, you guys all have the opportunity to not repeat last year. It's not what law enforcement does. It's not what the legislators make or do in laws. It's not what the governor signs or what the mayor pleads with. It's what you guys decide to do New Year's Eve. And that's what this is about. So with that, I wish everyone a safe New Year's Eve. If you guys are going to report 911 or go on the law.hawaii.gov, for those of you that know your neighbors historically, always participate. Give it to our website now. I'm going to work with Chief Vanek to strategize how we're going to go across Oʻahu New Year's Eve. Mahalo. Next up, we'll have Chief Hao.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Kalani Hao, Fire Chief of the Honolulu Fire Department. First, I'd like to thank the Mayor and our partnering agencies for their unified commitment to public safety. Our priorities are very simple. protect lives, property, and our first responders who serve our community. So let's be clear, illegal fireworks are not just festive toys. They are dangerous, unpredictable explosives. Now, that's something that, when they're used or stored near our homes or our families, that's an unacceptable risk that we all have to take, the risk is going to be on all of us. We see this heartbreak every single year, from devastating structure fires to catastrophic injuries. That's something, again, is completely preventable. They're not just statistics, they're life-altering consequences that, leave lasting scars on our families and our community. So it's something that, a cycle that we have to break. For our community, the firefighters and first responders work very hard and diligent every single day to protect you. So we ask our community to, show some respect and celebrate responsibly. There's no a celebration. Just to celebrate is not worth a life of a person, someone's home, or even a catastrophic injury. So we urge everyone to leave the pyrotechnics to the professionals. And we have several permitted safe displays around the island that will be taking place at midnight. We have out in in Ko'olina, at Waikai and Eva Beach, and also in Waikiki. So again, on behalf of the Honolulu Fire Department, we'd like to wish everyone a safe and happy holidays, and I'd like to call Director Island to the podium.
Good afternoon, James Ireland, Director, Honolulu Emergency Services Department. Thank you, Mayor, and everyone here. Last year notwithstanding, New Year's Eve is the busiest night of the year for EMS with respect to call volume. And it's really, unfortunately, a similar theme every year. It's all the regular calls we go to on the day-to-day that our paramedics respond to, the heart attacks, the shortness of breath, seizures. But we see an overload of firework-related injuries and accidents related to alcohol, usually. Motor vehicle accidents, fights, falls. And so not only do we really want people to refrain from using the illegal fireworks, but we also want to really, once again, because we say this every year, get a ride share, get a designated driver, don't drive impaired, celebrate responsibly, because the fights and the falls and the car crashes, those also contribute to lives devastated and lost on New Year's Eve, really every night, potentially, but especially on New Year's Eve. Last year, in addition to this tragedy in Salt Lake, we had a fatality from fireworks. And when I look back the previous 10 years, pretty much every New Year's Eve, we have someone with a devastating hand injury, either losing their hand or losing their fingers to a illegal explosive that they're holding and they try to throw. Oftentimes when they've been drinking and having, partying, they lose their hands or fingers, which are permanent injuries. Almost every year, somebody has been hit with an errant aerial, sometimes losing an eye, getting burned. So the injuries are real. They're injuries we see every year. We've also, as everyone knows, had a record number of traffic-related fatalities this year. And that enough is enough with that as well. And I really hope people heed our warnings and get a designated driver, get a ride share, so they can get home safely and we don't have any traffic fatalities this New Year's Eve. On a bright note, personally, just driving around into my own neighborhood, I do see less aerials going off now compared to previous years. I'm also pleased that we have not had any firework-related injuries that I know of requiring EMS this month. And in previous years, we did have injuries leading up to New Year's. So I'm hoping that is a foretelling of a good New Year's, a safe New Year's. But we'll see. But, from the law enforcement and the EMS and first responder fire department standpoint, we can only do so much. We can only get up here and say so much. We can only warn so much. The penalties speak for themselves, I think, and they're quite severe. But more so, as to Chief Howe said, is you're devastating and ruining your own life, someone else's life, and maybe even a child. So, have fun on New Year's Eve, but please be careful. Thank you. Mayor?
Before opening it up for questions and answers, I want to make an introduction. That's Scott Bell, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, is in the room. He'll be available for any questions you might have of the prosecutor's office. So look, let me just say this in summary. I mean, you just heard from our leadership team here. We're not naive. When I hear Mike Lambert talk about the fact that they confiscated more than 40 tons at the docks, that tells me there's a lot more. When I think back to last year, before we even thought about Aliamanu happening, or even imagined something as horrific as that could happen, I was blown away by the fact that months after Lahaina, we all went on television last year and begged and pleaded with everyone not to set off fireworks. We were in a drought condition. The west side was very dry. And I can promise you, from where I live, I can see out to the west side. You know, we all know what the airways look like that night. Nobody even heeded that. I'm encouraged to hear what Chief Vanek said about citations being down compared to a year ago, and certainly what the other men, Mike Lemmer just said about in their neighborhood, and that maybe there's been an awakening of some kind, but we're not naive. And that's where the enforcement comes in. One of the things that Chief Vanek didn't talk about was we've asked the police department to use extensive use of drones this year as well, and we will have a lot of drone activity out there to complement our enforcement. And we're also asking people, look, the thing about aerial fireworks, beyond what we've just talked about, losing hands and lives and personal injury to your family and all kinds of horrific things, also have the potential to do widespread damage. You know, widespread damage. You could be burning down somebody's house, for that matter, destroying their solar panels, creating a wildfire that we're certainly equipped to deal with, but we don't want to. I don't want our first responders put in harm's way like that. Those are all very real. And so it comes down to responsibility. And believe me, nobody wants to be up here during the holiday season sounding like they're threatening the public. We said last year, and I've seen it in print before, about enough being enough. We're going to try to enforce. That's why we get the laws changed to the full extent. Because that's the only recourse we have, other than to have people, good people, who all year long are good people, to be smart on New Year's Eve, to restrain themselves from doing something that they know full well is illegal. Don't endanger anybody. Don't endanger your families. Certainly don't do it. I don't know how else to say it. And if you do, and if we catch you, I don't want to hear one word of, oh, I'm sorry, oh, we didn't know. Okay? We will enforce strictly and as aggressively as we possibly can. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions and answers anybody has of these men here. Me for that matter, but these guys know their business. Anyone?
Director Lambert, how many indictments can we expect to see in the new year?
I don't want to disclose, but there are multiple, and those investigations are sprawling, meaning that we've started off with one person in a network, and now it's beginning to extend. So that's where the indictments are getting pushed back, because the web is getting bigger and bigger. So once we do file charges, we would make that available to the media.
I don't know if this is for Stefan, but if we can just go over quickly what barriers were kind of in the way prior to this year when it comes to why couldn't ATV just issue a citation if they saw someone blowing off the fireworks 2 years ago?
Well, we have to keep in mind that we have to apply the law as it existed at the time of the offense. In other words, any legislative changes, whether on the state or city levels, that took effect this summer in response to the horrific events of last New Year's Eve aren't applicable to the events of New Year's Eve. So the question is really, what were some of the barriers, at least that existed at the time? From the Honolulu prosecutor's standpoint, the definitions of fireworks, aerial fireworks, and display fireworks presented evidentiary burdens or hurdles to overcome. In other words, the definitions enacted by our legislature made it very difficult to prove certain elements of the offense. And Director Lambert and Chief Vanek could speak to that as well. So it's problems of proof as it existed prior to the changes in the laws. We will apply the law as now currently in place, and all of law enforcement is hopeful that these changes will deter illegal conduct, promote law-abiding behavior, and ensure public safety.
One for Chief Vanek. Can you talk about what the enforcement is going to look like on New Year's Eve, like how many officers you'll have, where they'll be focusing?
Sure, we don't want to give away exactly where they're going to be, obviously. what I can tell you is if you're thinking about doing it, just don't, because you could be looking at maybe a plainclothes officer. So we'll have plainclothes officers out there. We'll have also regular officers still responding to calls for service. Like the mayor said, we'll have drones out there. So the bottom line is there'll be a lot of officers out there enforcing because, like I said, we're taking this serious. We don't want another tragedy like what happened at Aliamanu happening again. And so the question is, well, why are you guys taking it seriously this time? Is I think like Director Lambert said is, well, it's raised in priority because I think we saw from what happened last year that like guns, like drunk drivers, I mean, everybody's seen, I think, that fireworks can and does kill people. So even for us, it's raised in priority. Please understand, we still have calls for service that we need to respond to. There are still assaults happening on that night. There are still motor vehicle collisions. There are still, when EMS says that's the busiest night of the year, I mean, we co-respond to a lot of those as police officers. So we're still going from case to case to case. But when someone gets injured and HFD goes or EMS goes to a fireworks call for service, we're going to prioritize those as well. And if when we go there, there is someone that is involved in one of these incidents where they set off a firework, I'm pretty sure that someone's going to say, hey, that's the guy over there that did it. Believe you me, we're going to take action, and we're going to make a case, we're going to arrest you, and you're going to probably go to jail for a very long time. So.
What is the status of the investigation for Aliamanu? Is anybody been charged, or do you want to trial anytime soon?
So the question is the status of the investigation of the events at 4144 Keaka Drive. So as a division chief at the Honolulu Prosecutor's Office, I'm overseeing the Honolulu Prosecutor's Office investigation into the events of that evening. Working collaboratively with the Honolulu Police Department, my office has looked at all evidence amassed by law enforcement investigators. This includes scores of interviews, gigabytes of electronic data, and other information. As we look at this case, I'd like to just remind you of a couple of principles that are really important, and Director Lambert touched upon it. As a general matter, it's the prosecutor's discretion of who to charge, when to charge, and what charges to bring. Generally, we don't foreshadow or give a heads up of when we're going to charge for obvious reasons, to avoid the flight of the suspects, intimidation of witnesses, and the destruction of evidence. I can say that the investigation is ongoing. Working collaboratively with the investigator headed by HPD's homicide detail, the prosecution has amassed an incredible amount of information. Once the investigation is complete, we'll apply it to the law as it existed on December 31, 2024, not as written currently, and bring all charges, the most severe ones, that can be proven in court beyond a reasonable doubt.
What is the most severe charge, homicide?
I'm not going to disclose that right now, but in response to perhaps what you're thinking is what is the status of the investigation. While we don't disclose sources and what we know, I can say, as a general matter, what we have found to be shocking, if not startling, is the refusal to cooperate by the family, friends, and acquaintances of the deceased and the injured. Surely under circumstances such as this, any fair-minded person would be willing to cooperate. But what we have seen is lack of cooperation, half-truths, misinformation, and complete information that's contradicted by the reliable facts. So those have been stumbling blocks, but not insurmountable ones, to this prosecution. The refusal to cooperate by those with direct knowledge of the offense.
And is anybody incarcerated currently for this?
No. While arrests have been made, they have been released pending investigation. And it'll be the time of the prosecution's choosing when the charges are brought.
Can you describe maybe the reason why it's taking so long for an investigation to go on? There are some calls for
Sure. And that's an understandable question. I commend the investigators at the Honolulu Police Department, specifically the detectives of the homicide detail, who have worked tirelessly for months. The question is, why not now? Why, after a year, have charges not been brought? Again, without disclosing means, methods, and procedures, law enforcement is waiting the completion of certain steps before an informed decision can be made. And it's no one's fault, but rather speaks to our careful, methodical approach so that we're not going off half-cocked, but rather the charges will be proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
How much of that has to do with the lack of cooperation from those two?
The investigation has taken different tacks. In other words, we're not waiting for someone to come forward and claim direct knowledge of the events. Well, that would be helpful. All I'm going to say is that is not the reason why charges have not yet been brought. Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, I just want to thank you again for being here. We need our media partners here to really help us get the word out. We're relying on the conduit that you have to the public to help spread the word. And all we can do is just hope and pray here. And I want to wish everybody a very happy New Year. And I'm hoping that we're going to get through this evening, in a couple of nights from now, or any significant event. We changed the laws to be as aggressive as we could. If I could have even changed them more, we would have. So we're begging people to please to listen and do what we're asking of you. Okay? Thank you very much.